Hello, classmates. I am going to talk to you tonight about Literacy for Diverse Society, Perspectives, Practices, and Policies. This is the article that was chosen for me for this project. And what it is it is a book with several different articles within the book written by different authors. So I skimmed, read several of the articles, and I picked up three highlights as a resource to use in the classroom. My first highlight to use in the classroom was to look closer at policy. I know as educators, sometimes we forget about the policy side of education. I think that seasoned educators typically have a little bit better of an idea of what policy all entails, but us right out of the gate, it's difficult to understand what is within policy because we're just trying to wrap our brain around keeping our classroom under control and following the Nebraska state standards and following different our pacing guides, that we kind of get lost within the policy. Why I think it's very important to look close at policies, because policy tells us a lot about what our classrooms should look like, or what our classrooms, or what individuals think our classrooms should look like who maybe have never been in the classroom. And that's where we need to remember to be an advocate for our students and be out there talking to policymakers and making sure that they understand what is best practice and what we need in the classroom, especially like tonight's topic on literacy and diverse literacy, and how that all ties together to make sure that our students are getting what they need within the classroom. Another highlight as a resource to use that I picked up is a pre-reading plan. This article talked a lot about how teaching our students how to do pre-reading is very important. And I know that we know that from College of St. Mary. However, it talked in detail about how we should have the students really activate their prior thinking and make sure that they are sharing their prior thinking and or prior knowledge and prior thinking, so other students in the classroom can get a good grasp on how perspectives are different based on where individuals grow up, what cultures they are from. I know in my classroom, when we start talking about when we start doing pre-reading activities, the perspectives within the classroom are just widely diverse, and it is very interesting that students come up with things that I didn't even think of, and for me to say something like, oh, I didn't even think of that, that is brilliant, tell me more about that, tell me more about why you think that. It's very powerful. You can see the students light up, and you can also see other students within the classroom buy in to the fact that diversity is something that is valuable and something that can be learned from. So I think that that's extremely powerful within the classroom. Also, and another one of the articles, I'm not quite sure which one it was within this slew of articles, but it talked about how we should learn about our students' communities, the words that they use in their communities, and the language that they use, because that will help us understand them better and be able to use that language within our classroom. I know within the article, and too, I've heard that we shouldn't tell students that the language that they use at home, even if it's like Ebonics or something along those lines, we shouldn't tell them that it's the wrong language. We should just tell them, somebody said that I've heard before, tell them it's the money language, and how if they want to have a professional job, within the if they want to have a professional job, then they need to know how to speak with fluency and how to write properly with fluency. However, not to just diminish the language or the words that they use at home. Also, so the new knowledge that I picked up is that about literate thinking, which I thought that this was a very interesting concept. One of the articles talked about how literate thinking is different in all societies, and how being literate does not mean necessarily that you can read well. It means that you can have a conversation that is based in good communication skills, and how that looks different for each society. And that kind of goes back to how you shouldn't talk about how students' native language or even Ebonics is bad. It's just different in our diverse society, and how we need to be aware of that when we're having conversations with students. Also, a diversity question for you all. Sometimes I wonder how to use diversity in the classroom when it comes to texts. I know I've heard that it's not best practice just to throw in some text, like say, okay, here is the African American text that we're going to read about, and just like throw that in there, teach them some things about the text, and then move on. How we really need to dig in and make the classroom about all cultures, and how it shouldn't just be like broken up into, we're going to study about this culture this time, this culture the next time. How it really should just be a fluid classroom with all cultures represented within our literature and within our teaching. And I struggle with knowing how to do that, especially we're all out there just trying to figure this whole system out. And I didn't know if you had any ideas for me of things that I could do within the classroom to make it more diverse, and just to make sure that all of my diverse learners are getting what they need to feel comfortable and to feel like that they can contribute to a literate conversation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions for me, I would love to answer them, and have a wonderful evening.